Check, 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 check one, check two. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Voyage College Church. If you're in the lobby entrance area, if you can start making your way into the NPR. Hey, I wanted to give a special welcome to all the parents that are here for Parent Weekend. So, yeah, round of applause for the parents. What would we do without them? I don't know. We're gonna skip the icebreaker. We're gonna get right into setting up the chairs, and we got a couple special treats for the service today. So if you can help us out by clearing the round tables and then lining up the chairs in rows like we usually do, then if you're new, you can just follow the little yellow markings on the ground. That's the boundaries for the chairs. All right. And start filling in the seats too. We got the seats set up. We can just start moving in over to the left-hand wall.
All right. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Good to see everybody. So yeah, welcome again to all the parents. Just give it up for all the parents. You know, they work so hard. I was just thinking as I was walking up here, like my parents never visited. But no hard feelings because they're working all the time. But then I thought like I didn't want them to visit because I'm in college now. But then, but now that I'm a parent, it's weird how things change. Now it's like if my kids go to, I totally want to go visit them and see their roommate and like, are you eating and at the very least, because you raised them for 18 plus years, at least you're like due one weekend, So, anyways, welcome to all the parents here. So we're gonna be starting our service with two videos. Okay, so. We're hitting November. This is like Thanksgiving season as a church, as a network, and just the importance of remembrance in the Bible, right? Remember all the way that I have led you through the wilderness, God says, and Jesus says, do this in remembrance of me. And so this is kind of our once a year. It's in our calendar anyways, but just this biblical idea of pausing and looking back at all the things that God has done. And it's easy as if you're just driving down the freeway to just miss the trees and the flowers. And so kind of a way to slow down a little bit and take stock of what God's been doing. And so the first video is a Midwest kind of a region video. And so these videos were done early. So at the Midwest, we have some really good project managers and video editors. And so they finished early, okay, as well as Silicon Valley. So we have an update from there. So I appreciate the fact that if you're decently new to our group, you're not going to recognize people in the video, and you're not going to know much about the ministries. But I think to really understand our church, because I think you guys have a picture of our church, we're Voyage, but then to really understand us is to understand that we're a part of a bigger network, and that's really important to us. But I was thinking about the idea of network, like what does network even really mean, and so I thought, well, network is like when you get like a medical plan for all the students, and you have to have like in network versus out of network, but then like that doesn't really matter because doctors within the network don't really care. It's just kind of a formality. But for us, it almost feels like a big family that we're a part of. Maybe that's a better word. And so the students, like the staff, mentors, man, like we draw so much strength from the fact that we're a part of a bigger network. That we're not just figuring out stuff here locally in Evanston, but that we're trying to do it together, and not just here, but also abroad as well. So my experience is that it would almost be like discovering you have like really fun cousins that you never heard of, and they're awesome, and wow, well, this person's doing that, and just to kind of open up your relational world a little bit. So the first video is Midwest. You'll see a lot of stuff there, but then we're gonna hear from Silicon Valley. Okay, so I'll come up between the two videos, but it's about 15 minutes each. So we're gonna dedicate a good chunk of our service today to these videos. So enjoy this first one, and then I'll come back up. Okay.
Sometimes treacherous. In 2021, we went from churches in Minneapolis and Chicago to having churches in 7 cities. We were now the Midwest region. But how do we start feeling like one spiritual family when the distance... The Midwest. It's a vast place. The weather is unpredictable and sometimes treacherous. In 2021, we went from churches in Minneapolis and Chicago to having churches in 7 cities. We were now the Midwest region. But how do we start feeling like one spiritual family when the distance between the University of Minnesota and the Ohio State University is a 12-hour, 760-mile drive? That's the equivalent of 2.5 trips from Boston to Philly, or about the distance between the University of Washington and UC Berkeley. So how do you build a region when it's hard to gather? We've heard it said, what looks like high commitment is actually high connection. We know that God has called us to guard our relationships and the way of life we share. And as we spread out, we're willing to do whatever it takes to strengthen our sense of unity. So our regional ties have been forged little by little as we do the hard work of planning, changing schedules, driving, flying, in order to do things together. Sometimes it's been through large gatherings, from the first Midwest Rally in Indiana, Midwest College Winter Retreat, Midwest International Spring Retreat, Midwest Sports Tournament. But often it's through getting as many churches as possible together on a weekend, which can mean a 7-hour drive on Friday, spending Saturday together at Midwest Lodge for MBS and fellowship, then driving back on Sunday. It's a little inconvenient, and sometimes we doubted what effect it would have. But we found that each time we met or attempted things together, relational strands did get stronger. Over time, we've learned to make any excuse to see one another, to have 2 or 3 ministries combined for an event, or to stop to say hi on one of our road trips. These smaller but more frequent opportunities to see each other did a lot to grow our sense of togetherness. Here are some things we did this year. Minnesota and Madison did a Bible camp. UIUC and Purdue did a gospel seminar. South Chicago used Purdue's building for a team meeting. UIUC came to Purdue to watch kids during the international retreat. Purdue and South Chicago did Filter of Hope. Minnesota and NU did a mission trip at Madison. South Chicago visited Michigan on the way to Toronto. Madison visited UIUC for a getaway. Minnesota hosted an A2K camp for Madison. Chicagoland helped OSU International for Welcome Week. Michigan and OSU hosted the Purdue student leaders. Purdue helped NU with Welcome Week, and many more things like that. We're grateful to have learned what it takes to forge our bonds and common mission, which has also enabled us to start new ministries within the region.
This summer, we started our OSU International Ministry with 2 staff from Minnesota and 4 of us from Madison. It was one massive road trip where many people drove out from Minnesota and Madison to help us move and get settled within a day, and we were able to recollect memories on our drive. During our Welcome Week, we were so grateful for the Chicago International teams who came out here to help us. It was just our small team of 6 trying to tackle the large campus here at OSU, and we would have been overwhelmed. They also brought their students here to help, and it was neat to see them try and talk to international students and give an ISMP workshop here.
3 years ago, we started our churches at Purdue, UIUC, Madison, Michigan, and Ohio State. As the Midwest churches have come out of the initial phase of church planning, we're now at a place where we've been able to implement many of the good ideas we get from around our network. The result is that we've experienced a number of firsts. For example, Michigan and Northwestern put on their first gospel skits as a way to rally their students and reach out to more friends. Purdue held its first pre-fall student leader retreat. The student leaders made 1,000 goodie bags, labeled 1,000 water bottles, and handed it all out in about 30 minutes to new students. And our team at UChicago, inspired by Boston's City Church model, decided to make a big change. Back in 2023, as they prayed for other campuses, they became aware that there are 500,000 college students in Chicago metro area, and there were 50,000 students just near downtown Chicago. The staff imagined, what would it take for us to be the worship service for 100 college students downtown? In April this year, the team did 1 month of outreach and 2 pilot services. Then this fall, they made a big outreach push with the start of a new school year. There are now about 80 students each Sunday at our new downtown service from 7 different schools.
So my name's Kieran Jacobs, and I'm at Columbia College, Chicago.
I'm Ariana. I go to Columbia College, Chicago.
My name is Alexis. I go to SCIC, which is School of the Art Institute, Chicago.
I'm Jaden Kane. My school is Northeastern Illinois University.
I'm Evan. I am a freshman at Vandercook College of Music.
I love how it's brought together so many different campuses in one location. I'm meeting so many different students and people my age.
I was really desperately searching for just a youth environment, people going through like similar seasons as me, and Voyage had like exactly that.
One thing I'm thankful for is definitely the people. I feel like since I've come here, I've found a new sense of community, other Christians that are really not so different from me.
I grew up in a church where it was like people 40s, 50s, and older, so having an environment with people that are in their teens and 20s and like 30s, it honestly made me feel like really seen and also just, I guess, not alone.
And I feel like they're a family to me. I love them, they love me, I can tell they love me.
I'm super thankful for the community and how it's grown since I've been here, and I'm also thankful for DP and his preaching style. And here I always take like 2 pages of notes, and I'm always super engaged, and really thankful for like the reflection and the discussion that we get mid-service.
So I grew up Christian, and I've always been going to church, but since I came to Voyage, I started realizing it's something I want for myself. Yeah, it's made really like a big difference in my life so far, and I'm just excited for the rest of the semester and the rest of my time at Voyage, just to keep getting closer and closer to God every Sunday.
As our churches in the Midwest have been growing, it's been neat to see more and more students raised up to be kingdom workers. But none of our groups can do this by ourselves. It's been crucial for our students to join regional or network-wide retreats and mission trips, where they get calibrated with like-minded peers and gain a larger vision for their lives. At this year's International Vision in Boston, 6 students from Purdue International were stretched and challenged. Now, all of them are serving as student leaders this semester, leading tabling, doing the gospel skit, presenting apologetics posters, and leading a DT group. This summer's network-wide servant leadership training also directly led to many students committing to be student leaders in the fall.
I thought because I'd been a Christian for a bunch of years now that outreach in a foreign country would be very easy. and it was not. It was very difficult, and that really humbled me.
But I remember Pastor Ed's message to us at the start of SLT, and he reminded us of how Jesus' ministry was defined by him constantly descending down for us. And I realized that if I called myself a follower of Christ, my life had to reflect that pattern as well.
SLT really helped me understand the importance of building relationships in the context of ministry, just sharing a little bit of God's love that he has for us towards other people. And it really made me realize just how much people are in need of this love.
I was talking to these 4 students that I've only known for about 2 hours. I got to ask them, where do they see themselves in the future? A lot of them agreed that they'd be like working a lot. So I pushed them. I said, you know, like, why will you guys be working so much? And ultimately it came down to money. And I pushed even further, you know, why do you want so much money? And it seems like a dumb question, but, you know, I got to help them understand that they're seeking this money because they want security in their lives. And it was very heartbreaking knowing that Jesus sees them not by, you know, the worth of how much money they can bring in, but Jesus sees them and loves them so much because they are his children.
Yeah, so after coming back to the US and starting a PhD program at OSU, I started praying more that God would just use me to reach out to my classmates and campus. I also had the privilege to reach out to my international friends who are in my department and in my labs. And I actually also had the opportunity to start course on one with a Taiwanese student, which is super awesome.
I spent the summer in San Francisco in my dream role, and there really wasn't more that I could have asked for. But while all of this seemed so glamorous on the outside, I remember sitting on my bed at the end of each day, exhausted and worn out, wondering if this was what the next 40 years of my life looked like. The same day my internship ended, I directly jumped into SLT training and subsequently the mission field in Taiwan. It's funny because 3 weeks to me felt more recharging, alive, and filled with joy than 3 months of work, and I now see how despite the allure of the things of this world, my ultimate worth is in God alone, and those moments of pure joy serving Him are the moments that I want to prolong. Coming back, I saw how big of a change in heart I've had from obligation and feeling like, oh, I should do this, to just really wanting to go all out and serve in a myriad of ways, whether that's helping out with a freshman small group, leading Bible studies, or even prepping for Course 101. And I'm so excited to see how God will continue to use me in my senior year.
Through SLT, Neil, a senior and the first student to ever come out from Illinois Tech, got excited about sharing the gospel on his campus. He led a group of 60 IIT students who were taking public transit to come to our Welcome Sunday service, making the last-minute call to take the train instead of the bus because so many people showed up. He has become an older brother to many new guys checking out church.
So before SLT, I'm very shy and really to myself and also very lazy. I wasn't really confident in how to share the gospel and do outreach, and I pretty much shied away from opportunities like that. But after SLT, I gained a greater sense of urgency of how important it is to share the gospel to everyone and make disciples of all nations. I was really on fire to continue that mission work from Japan and Taiwan to our campuses here in Chicago. And I also realized how difficult it is to do ministry and to really go out of your shell and meet new people, especially as an introvert, is really difficult. But at the same time, this is what God called me to do, and I really found joy and fulfillment in making new friends and inviting them to service and really learning about what their life story is. And I was really on fire to build a community within Illinois Tech and get closer with the new freshmen and even some friends that I've met before.
We're also reaping the benefits of being a close network in other ways. As our students get internships and jobs in other cities, they have a chance to plug into our churches there, and it provides unexpected opportunities for them to keep growing spiritually and learn to be kingdom workers. This summer, Luke and Lily were both rising seniors at Northwestern. Luke got a job at Microsoft and got plugged into our Silicon Valley church. There, he served as a coach at the AYM volleyball camp and helped in the SV Welcome Night skits. Summer ended up being a spiritual boost for him, and he came back to Northwestern fired up. Lily also got plugged in with our church in Silicon Valley. She got the courage to bring a fellow intern to church and share the gospel with another intern. Summer became a spiritual highlight for her. So we've been experiencing what we've been calling the network effect. People are making valuable connections across churches and have the potential to continue their faith in each stage of their lives. That's also how the Midwest region is being built up, one person at a time. And in the end, we want to keep launching kingdom workers. One moment that captured this valley was when we sent team members from Minnesota and Chicago to East Asia, along with all the other 4 mission teams. Many of them were natives that had long dreamed of being sent back to their home country with the gospel. Sending them out was the fruit of all God had done to save them, many of them while they were students in the Midwest, and the investment of many people in their lives. This never gets old. Seeing the gospel transform people and give them a new vision. We praise God for the 130 people that made decisions in the Midwest this year. Here are a few of their stories.
Before interacting with our church, I barely had any spiritual background because both of my parents are atheists, and growing up, we didn't really talk about religion or spiritual life. All I knew about the Bible was the incredible sounding stories in my childhood picture books. The first person I met at our church is Ruth. I got the opportunity to connect with her through the International Student Mentorship Program. After attending a helpful online workshop hosted by ISMP, I signed up for pairing with a mentor since I was anxious before coming to Madison as a transfer student and desperate for some guidance. So last fall, I began studying the Bible and exploring Christianity more seriously. Internally, I struggled because I had grown up being told that my worth came from my personal success and competition, and this mindset clashed with what I was learning in the Bible. Externally, I faced skepticism from my parents and peers who thought my interest in Christianity was a waste of study time or outdated. But these challenges were also what prompted me to think about what I learned from the Bible and the messages more. So even though I was trying hard being a good student and fitting in, I often felt empty and insecure. I used to think, what if someone finds that I am actually not as good as appear to be, or what if someday I am too tired to act very properly in front of people so that people would break all the good relationships with me. However, I think I am fortunate enough to find the answer and solution in the Bible. It was like a compass when I was lost, and that's why when reading the parable of the prodigal son during the Luke Bible camp in the past winter break, I was truly moved about and thinking seriously about being a Christian myself. Even though I was not sure whether I was capable of being a good Christ follower, I wanted to respond to God's love and decided to take a step of faith and became a Christian on the last day of January this year.
Growing up, I never went to church. To me, Christianity was just some big fairy tale that I couldn't believe people actually thought was true. I remember back then I used to struggle with feeling so isolated. Every time I got free time, I would just watch YouTube or play video games. I knew what I really wanted was to be with the people I cared about, because I just felt so broken when I was alone. I remember in high school, I started thinking that something had to have created life. There was just no way we came from nothing. It was my second day at college when I first met the church. They invited me to a couple of the events, and they seemed really nice, so I was happy to go. As I got to know them, I was blown away by their lives. Each one of them truly had each other's back, and I realized that this was the kind of life I wanted to live. So I started looking into Christianity, but really struggled once I started reading the Bible. I just could not believe the stories I was reading. It was then I realized the implications of Jesus' resurrection. If the man who claimed to be God really did come back from the dead, that means everything he said and taught would be true. I ended up going to a winter retreat with my church, and I was able to talk about it more with some of my mentors. That is when I realized the evidence for Jesus' resurrection had to be true. And because of that, I decided to become a Christian.
We're thankful for the incredible entrustment we've been given. Because who gets to live like this? Who gets a front row seat to see people transformed, to see people catch the vision to be kingdom workers? Whether it's someone from a small town in the Midwest to someone from the other side of the world with no religious background, God's work never gets old. Who gets to experience such richness in doing life and mission together, not just with like-minded friends in our own cities, but across our whole region? Who gets the kinds of resources and connections that we enjoy by being situated within a close and maturing network that can put on impactful events at a large scale? Who gets to live like this? So we're committed to building our relationships and ministries little by little, embracing all the hard work that takes. It's exciting to imagine the possibilities as we continue to send out more kingdom workers from here to the ends of the earth.
Okay, so kind of a lot there. How about let's just share with the person next to you. How about this prompt? What was surprising from that video for you? Okay, so for me, among a lot of things, it was Neil. He's the Illinois Tech Shy, but the picture of him saying, "We're not going to take the bus because there's 60 people from my campus that I want to bring to church," and so they hopped on like the L to go to church. I think that was just shocking to me to see that. So just share like a vignette or something that was surprising, and then I'll get us going to the next video. All right. Okay. So some bros and I yesterday watched Planet of the Apes 4, which I don't know. I never thought I'd be sharing from Planet of the Apes 4, but one of the apes says, "Apes together, strong," and the movie's okay. So I'm not recommending the movie, but I think and not that we're apes, but just doing things together, is way more fun. Like you can do a whole lot more things, and I think kind of. There's something compelling about watching a movie where it features like a hero's journey, or just like the values of individualism, and I'm going to figure it out on my own. Something compelling about that to watch in a movie, but I think that really pervasive attitude in our society really undercuts just the strength of others and community. And thinking about not just the salvations, but all that God was doing kind of through us and among us and all these campuses, like how are we able to do that? And it's not because we're particularly charismatic or compelling or winsome or awesome. Like it's really not because of that. I think a big part of the formula is, hey, we're gonna figure it out together. We're gonna just try loving youth. We're gonna try hitting this campus. And if it's hard, at the very least, we can watch a movie together and we can have fun. Like it's like we can. I think just this whole thing about making disciples in church is way more doable in the context of the body of Christ, which I think is really biblical. So I'm kind of thankful that I got to really experience that this past year, and of course just praise God for what God did in our midst that we got to witness. So now we're gonna watch the SV, so Silicon Valley video. So just a quick setup. So our church network, we were a network. We started off as just like a local church in Berkeley, and then we started to plant churches around the country, and then back in 2021, I guess, realized, wait, there's Silicon Valley just down the doorstep from the Bay Area, from the East Bay, and so a lot of youth ministry there. So a lot of youth as well as the different small colleges, and so they're going to tell a little bit about the backstory there, and then just really feature a really cool picture of what like a city church could be and feel like. And so in some ways, really challenged. I hope that Chicagoland can eventually get to that point. Different ministries, old, young campuses, we're going to do it together. And so that is a huge theme, togetherness, in this video. Okay, so let's go ahead and watch this, and I'll come back.
Hey everyone, many new things happened in SV the past 4 months. In June, Pastor Daniel and Sarah moved to lead our SoCal region, and Steve and I began leading our ministries here. Also, after 9 years, 23 Santa Cruz team members moved from the mountains to sunny Sunnyvale to join us.
Hi, my name is Joey. I'm class of 2019. We recently moved from Santa Cruz up to Silicon Valley, and I'm just super thankful for the fact that we get to be a part of our larger body here. It's just really strengthening for us to be able to do life together, but also to kind of tackle our different campuses together. One more thing I'm really thankful for is for our students. They get to kind of see that actually they're part of a larger body of believers, and they get to see other like-minded, similar age students really trying to love Jesus. Overall, really excited for all that God's gonna do through us and on each of our campuses, and especially Santa Cruz this upcoming year.
God provided a location to gather as a city, got the keys in record time, and moved into a new space we now call Walsh in the heart of Santa Clara. Finding a space to gather was challenging due to factors like cost in the Bay. And without a larger space, it was hard to experience doing life and ministry collectively.
I'm really grateful for Walsh because of the central hub that it's created.
Just for Walsh, especially the telecommuting space with my peers.
Last year, I lived right across from campus, and that was really good for ministry, but I felt pretty isolated.
I was in a separate ministry group than all of them, and so it was rare to see them.
So moving to Sunnyvale and then getting to go to Walsh every day for especially morning DT has been really strengthening for me.
I'm just happy because I get to be with people that I've known for many, many years now.
And there's just been an overall increase in productivity, in energy and zeal as we're serving together and as we co-labor together for Christ.
So being here together at Walsh has really been an awesome thing for our kids. They have an after-school program on Tuesdays. On Fridays, different ministry groups are coming in and leading a special program with them, and they're getting to meet all sorts of new uncles and aunties. And we just get a longer time on Sundays. And so we get to have lunch together. The kids are playing outside and in the gym together. They're learning how to clean. And so there's so many different ways that they're having more types of connection with each other and with the church as a whole. As we want to develop a biblical worldview for our kids, it's going to come through them experiencing getting to be the church together.
One way I'm really grateful for just all the older people we have is just the wealth of knowledge and skills that come with carpentry or electrical stuff or car maintenance, just all these practical things that, very grateful that I have others I can learn from.
I just asked Robert Kim, hey, how you time manage? And he just shared right away, like during singlehood, you just do the hard things fast so that you have bandwidth later in life.
As I'm going through this area of looking for employment, it's been really helpful for that workshop to help us how to do our resume and how to search for jobs. Doing DT with the older ones as are able to share just wisdom that I am unable to see.
So it's been a blessing to be together a lot, which has been the theme the past 3 months. We're better together.
I am so thankful for college ministry this past fall. It was so joyful to be able to labor all together and just experience that camaraderie of co-laboring with one mission together as the body of Christ. And I think as we did that, what students saw was very different. I think in past years, we tried to showcase the gospel, of course, but also the community and the relationships, but it was challenging to do so in a small group. And as they saw our community, as they heard the gospel, it just felt like they were ready. We've experienced a good number of salvations, rededications, students that were just, it seemed like waiting to hear the true message of forgiveness and the call to a life of mission.
So by the end of July, we were now ready to try some new initiatives together. AYM was launched in Silicon Valley in a fresh way this July. It started with a first AYM sports camp and summer nights where we got to share the gospel to 90-plus students and parents, a NorCal AYM sports tournament where we got to compete with other NorCal youth teams for the first time, an all-NorCal AYM summer festival at Great America, 200 teens to end the summer and encourage each other in our faith before the dreaded school year begins. Our first AYM volleyball clinic in San Jose, first AYM volleyball league, or we call it AVL for short, began. Open gym times in the East and West San Jose areas, middle school, high school hangouts, study halls, AYM monthlies. This is pretty amazing that we are meeting hundreds of kids, considering that statistically, only 1 in 10 Gen Zers say that they attend a religious service once a week, nationwide. But for the Bay Area in particular, it's more common to meet students who never ever go to church nor identify with any faith. And given our context, it's remarkable that so many youth join us for one or more of these events weekly, hosted by a Christian group with adult mentors who care. We're really grateful and want to be faithful with this entrustment. I'm thankful because everyone became a youth minister for us to be able to do this. In August, we switched gears and it was time for our city to welcome college students this fall. Challenged by Greg Steer's message to our network and the release of Radical Like Jesus, we started with prayer on every campus. The phrase, all hands on deck, has been a rally cry I've grown to love, each fall when we all get to pitch in. And this fall, everyone got to support 6 different welcome nights and welcome weeks for every campus, small or large. It was a unifying time for our city where everyone worked together, whether marinating Korean barbecue, driving to Santa Cruz, passing out flyers, or delivering boba for ISMP kickoffs. Everyone was needed. And collectively, we got to all celebrate in the joy of sharing the gospel to 553 and more students through it all. Praise the Lord. After the past 3 months, on a given Sunday, you will find a team departing for Santa Cruz to either go pick up students or to put on a service. A team fanning out for rides to several campuses in the South Bay. A gathering of high schoolers, college undergrads, and grad students and postgrads who can hear from the Word of God and find connection. Next door in our Wash number 2, which we got because we're running out of space, you will find our pre-K and Acts 2 kids group learning about Jesus. You can find mentors putting on a career mentorship session after the service to help our undergraduates in this competitive market. You'll find students hanging out to study or play ball after a service, and students helping to coach teens at AVL practice or AYM volleyball clinics. A team of volunteers leaving to visit the elderly to share their faith.
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm a 4th year at Northeastern. I've just really been thankful for the sense of community that I've felt and a really homey sense of belongingness coming all the way from Boston.
Hi, I'm Eli, and I'm really thankful for just all of the opportunities I've had since coming here. Also just getting more involved with the church, being able to help out with AYM Sunday volleyball clinics has been a lot of fun.
I'm thankful just for the experience at Silicon Valley College because originally I came from inner high. Just like meeting new people within around the same age and just building a close-knit community.
Coming from India, I had almost no spiritual contact other than my family, so coming here I'm really grateful for this community and this church to grow our faith and share it. Living out the commission together.
Coming from Davis, one thing that I'm really thankful for is the intergenerational sisters that I've been able to make friends with. I really love the community of sisters and how many friends I've been able to make in such a short amount of time.
I'm thankful that I can invite my friends to AYM here. Just like last week, one of my friends came out to the Halloween monthly.
Originally, I was from AYM Oakland, and I was being mentored by Kyle. Transitioning into college, I was kind of sad and depressed because I lost all my friends. I found a new church group here that was kind of connected to AYM, kind of uplifted me in a way, and I'm really grateful for them because I have people, I found my community, and I'm loved by other people, and it makes me feel great.
I was here on campus at Stanford over the summer. I felt really homesick and kind of was trying to find my purpose in completing all of my assignments, and I think Moment was really my home away from home. The SBC community was really welcoming and nice, and I've been a Seeking Christian for 3 years since freshman year. I didn't grow up having a religious background. Over the summer, I was able to make my salvation decision with Azusa, my mentor here at Moment. It allowed me to separate myself from my career as being my entire identity. It just changed my entire life. I think it was the best decision I've ever made. I'm really thankful for the patience and the endurance that the mentors here at Moment and SVC has given me, and I'm just really enamored by their ability to welcome me into their community with such open arms. Yeah.
So reflecting over the past 3 months, I can find a group of people who I'm very grateful to serve with. People trying to serve God and hold on to the patterns the Bible shows us in Acts 2 that we cherish. I have grown in gratitude for being the body of Christ and the need to intentionally forge that life together. Some of us are stronger, some weaker in different seasons of life, some older and younger. But I've witnessed the strength and joy of coming together to do God's work, and I've come to appreciate in a fresh way that connection is essential for the long haul. It's what we need, it's what I need, and what the world needs to see. No matter how successful people are on the outside, the world is hungry to see a display of a community of love in action. This past month, we had our first ever college fall retreat where there were 4 precious decisions made for Jesus. This past Sunday, we had 5 more students who wanted to follow Jesus and be saved. This is why we're here. And if we stay faithful to being Christ's church together, then Acts 2:47 will come true. And the Lord added to their number, day by day, those who were being saved. I'm eager to see Silicon Valley not only to be known for launching new startups, but for launching future kingdom workers into the harvest field to be sent out from here to win a generation for Christ.
Amen, amen. Okay, go ahead and just talk about that video. Talk about that video, what you heard, what to take away for you, okay? All right, let's go ahead and wrap up. I was thinking about how powerful videos are. You know, you put music and clips, and it's so glowy, and at the end they're waving in slow motion, and it's like. But of course, there's a lot of hard work and ministry, and it's not always so encouraging. But there is something about just zooming out and really taking stock of what God has done. And even like the first video, Dan, the narrator, was saying like, who gets to live like this? And I think just wow, like what a crazy life that we get to live. And it's not always easy, it's not always encouraging, but just the thick web of relationships, you know? You get the sense where like, because they talk about Walsh, and there's no like, it's kind of blurry between like home life and church life. It's all kind of together, and you see your friends day and night, and I even thought, like, what a great environment to raise kids, too, you know, and like, because they get to see all these uncles and aunties and living out their faith. And so I was just filled with a lot of gratitude. And then just the fact that we're reaching youth, just have a burden for youth. I was a youth, you know, all of us were youth, and just so preyed upon by the world, and yet just trying to figure out how to meet them. So volleyball or you know, city church. Really looking to to Silicon Valley as kind of a model for kind of how to reach youth, and so they're kind of taking the flag, trying to figure that out. So, yeah, really thankful for that video. Okay, so we are in Genesis 11. Okay, so we're gonna try to tackle this story today. Okay, so Tower of Babel. All right, so Tower of Babel. So we've been going through Genesis. Really been enjoying just reading Genesis, slowing down at these different vignettes. Genesis 11, so Tower of Babel, I do feel like we have to say that this is one of these really interesting and weird stories. You know, it reads like one of these mythical stories, like how did the elephant get its trunk? And it's one of these like, you know, how did the world get its languages? And so there is that initial like, it's just kind of strange perhaps. But I think as we've been hopefully discovering through Genesis, there's maybe like a historical meaning that we can take from these stories, but there's also a deeper message perhaps contained within these stories. And so even this story, I think it hits on themes of like oneness and community, like what leads to genuine oneness, or even the whole issue of one language versus many. I think that's a really interesting theme. How in our country, like most of us speak English, and yet it seems like nobody can understand each other, that we're kind of talking past each other. So we're going to explore that a little bit too. So I'll read the passage for us. So Genesis 11, just 1 through 9, starting from verse 1. So now the whole earth had one language and the same words. And as people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." And they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. And they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth." And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower and which the children of man had built. In verse 6. And the Lord said, "Behold, they are one people, and they have all one language, and this is only the beginning of what they will do. And nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and there confuse their language, so that they may not understand one another's speech." So the Lord dispersed them from there over the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. Therefore its name was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth, and from there the Lord dispersed them over the face of all the earth. Okay, so we're gonna pause there. So as I mentioned earlier, we have these biblical stories, and it often has a historical basis. And so, for example, if you trace the origin of human cultures and languages, it's interesting that there's this theory that it comes from a civilization, that there's one point of origin in the past. And so one theory around this, and this is from linguistic anthropologists, they tell us that a large number of languages in the world comes from perhaps like a really, really old language, and Proto-Indo-European. So this is not all the languages, but a lot of them has perhaps a common linguistic origin, tracing itself about to the Mesopotamian area, which is where the Bible places Babel, near the plains of Shinar. So that's kind of the present-day Iraq. So pretty interesting. And then also you have things like the ziggurat. So this is what a ziggurat looks like in the ancient city of Ur. So this is like modern day, but there are these pretty massive structures, and often have multiple levels or terraces. Scholars say that each of these bricks measured about 11 by 11 by 3 inches, weighed about 33 pounds, and so one level would have about 700,000 of these bricks. So maybe the Tower of Babel looks something like that. But at a deeper level, what are some of the truths, the timeless truths that the Bible is getting at? And I think this text, it really speaks to at least two, I think, foundational forces of human motivation. What are the two predominant forces that drive and motivate not just, I think, a lot of human history, but perhaps every one of us individually as well? So looking at verse 4, let's read this together. Verse 4, ready, set, go. Then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth." How about let's talk about that? What are the two forces of human motivation that are perhaps captured in this verse? Okay, just talk about that. If you could summarize it in two separate words, what would they be? Okay, ready, set, go. All right, so what did you guys notice? So one is this phrase, let us make a name for ourselves. Okay, let us make a name for ourselves. So maybe this could be described as ambition, right? Wanting to achieve something, wanting to make your mark on the earth. In sports, you know you've made it when is if people can refer to you by just one name, Jordan, LeBron, like boom, or in the academic world, if you can have like a professorship named after you, like endowed chair of whatever, or if you can have a building named after you. Now, I'm sad to report that I'm not the most famous Huang in the world, because there was 1 month ago at Stanford, there's a Huang Center for Engineering named after, Jensen, I'm not related. He's the NVIDIA guy, okay, so there's that, right? Ambition, but I thought, even if you're not one of these type 3 Enneagram, like driven ambition, because that's not really me. I think even if it's not, you want your name written, still just a desire to be somebody, right? I don't think we ever vocalize this, but like I want to be special, I want to be different, I want to stand out, I want to make a name for myself in the world, I want to be successful. I think maybe different different ways to skin a cat, but ambition. So I think that's one. And then I thought this phrase, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth. Lest we be dispersed. And maybe we can capture this as fear. And for them, maybe it's a fear that we're going to be scattered, that we're going to be insignificant, that we're going to be forgotten. So hey, let's rally together. Let's do this engineering project, whatever it was. And so ambition and fear. Maybe another way to describe this is the drive for significance as well as the drive for security. All right, significance, security, ambition, fear. Man, these are really powerful motivators. And if you really think about it, I think these are often two sides of the same coin. I grew up with a lot of fear from my parents. And they're really nice. So it wasn't like a scary fear, but ever since I was like in elementary school, Kevin, you don't ever want to be unemployed. And I'm like, okay, can I just play my video games? Like, it's one of these, like, you don't ever want to be poor. You don't ever want to lose your job. And of course, my parents are speaking from experience. And so in the 80s, they had a really rough part of our family history. And then also my parents grew up in post-war Japan. And so no, I mean, not much judgment, just all that they kind of came with, immigrants to the US. And so I think out of their love for me, it's like, man, like, just take it from us. You don't ever want to be poor. You don't ever want to be in that position of neediness. And so I grew up with a good amount of fear, and it was powerfully motivating to study and to apply for schools and all that. And so that fear, I think it directly translated to ambition. That how am I going to deal with that sense of fear or insecurity? I'm going to try to make a name for myself. And so that was at Blandford Elementary in LA, all the way up to throughout college. Two sides of the same coin. And I thought it's really surprising that even the most powerful people can be fearful. And these are people that, like, out of anyone to not fear, it would be you. And yet we kind of see that dynamic. I remember going to the Forbidden City in Beijing, and it's one of these amazing places. It's like the architecture and the history, and I see some nodding heads back there. It's an amazing place. And you walk in, and it's like those kung fu movies where there's like a stone courtyard, boom. And it's like, how many thousands of people can fit, in this place? And there's this giant structure. And it's so impressive, but you realize, because the tour continues and you walk through, and there's like another courtyard. And there's something like, there's like 9 layers or something. And then the middle, that's where like the emperor sits. And literally the Chinese consider themselves, it's like middle kingdom. They are like the middle of the universe. And at the middle of the middle kingdom is the emperor, the most powerful person maybe at that time. And on the tour, it's not reflected in this picture, but on the tour they actually tell you, hey, little known fact is that there's no trees within the walls of the Forbidden City. And it's like, oh, well, that's weird, but why? Anyone have a guess? It's to prevent like assassinations in the trees. And there's all these things that the emperor did. The men were castrated, and like there's just a lot of, and that's like, again, it's so weird because all those walls, all those layers of protection, all those provisions. Why? Perhaps it comes from a place of fear, as well as ambition. And so, if this indeed is perhaps a pretty universal, if not completely universal, human experience, maybe the question is, why is this the case? Like, where does this come from? This drive to want to be someone, the drive to, or just this constant simmering of fear, of insecurity. Where does this come from? And if you remember back to the earlier chapters of Genesis, I think it all stems from Genesis 2 and 3. And we're going to keep going back to Adam and Eve, right? So I think it starts there, rejecting God, the ring thing. Like what happened there? It's sin is what? It's rejecting God. It's saying, hey, God, I want to be my own God. I want to call the shots over my own life. And Adam and Eve thought, when I do that, I'm finally going to stretch my wings. I want to be free. I want to experience more life. But it's just like that saying. It's like sawing the branch that you're sitting on. And it's one of these trades that we don't realize that we're doing, but by rejecting God, God is a source of life. God is a source of significance, of love, of purpose, of mission. God is, because he's the one that created us. And by cutting ourselves off from that, then we're cutting ourselves off from that source of identity as God's beloved, as being significant in his eyes. Then we have to go hunting for it in other places. And we see this really interesting progression in man's response to God after the fall. So Genesis 3, it's Adam and Eve hiding from God. So there's the whole fig leaves thing. And then in Genesis 4, it becomes Cain. Cain is not just hiding from God, but Cain flees from God, right? East of Eden, we know that story. I think one can then make the argument that perhaps here, Genesis 11, the builders of Babel, the post-flood community, what they're trying to do now is what? Not just hiding from God, not just fleeing from God, but what are they perhaps doing here? In some ways, they're replacing God. They're going to build a tower that reaches up to the heavens. It's really interesting that this little shift to fill their desire for security and significance, not with God himself, but with this big tower in the heavens. And so why would they build this city with a huge tower? Maybe there is the sense of, oh man, there's feeling this, that apart from God, there's no unifying center for our lives. There's no purpose. There's an emptiness. And so maybe the community leaders came together and said, hey, if we build this tower, maybe this can be now the rallying cry for our community, for our society. Interesting note, how do they do this? So this is kind of a small footnote. Interesting note is verse 3. So how do they accomplish this? Let's read this together. Verse 3, ready, set, go. And they said to one another, come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. So what is this? And I thought, this is technology. You know, and as engineers, so we're my MSc, my material science friends, okay, all right, okay, I see you, Jason, okay, Paloma, okay, yes. If I wasn't Mechie, I would be an MSc, man, that's awesome. This is like firing ceramics, right? It's like refractory materials. Man, if you want to build a jet engine, you can't put like a metal thing. You want to put ceramics in there, and so they figured this out. You know, these folks finally figured out that they can make things out of mud, but instead of mud, you dry it in the sun. It becomes lighter, it becomes stronger. You can build higher and higher, and it's awesome because you don't have to quarry for rock anymore. You can build things that are straight and level. So then, you know, like Henry Ford is awesome, mass production, but maybe this is like the first like standardization of materials or mass production. It must have been an awesome time. This is like a huge step forward in technology. The possibilities were endless. And then with this technology, they said, hey, we're going to now build a city, a tower with its top in the heavens. And maybe this will solve the emptiness that we feel. Maybe this is going to be sufficient to replace God. And I think this is pretty amazing because maybe this is pretty relevant to modern life. Maybe nowadays, even more so than any other time in history, it's a scientist that says, hey, we've got everything figured out. We don't need God to explain everything. With all the stuff we discovered, all the advances that we've made, we're told that we can then build a meaningful life apart from God. But how has that worked in our society? How has that worked out? That in some ways we're more technologically advanced than ever, and yet there's often an undercurrent of, gosh, there's got to be more to life than this. And so these towers that we build, I think there's a lot of different towers that we can perhaps be building to secure yourself, to find significance and security and apart from God. I think maybe it doesn't have to be something that big or impressive. It could just even be really small and modest. God, all I want is a cozy, comfortable life. If I could just have a nice house, a garage, a dog, then I'll be finally secure. I'll be finally happy. Maybe it's a special someone looking to romance or significance. In our hearts, we're thinking, gosh, if I can just build this life for myself, then I would be okay. Finally, that hole in my heart is going to be filled. I think in some ways, this is kind of both the allure and excitement, but also the stress of college life. You know, because I think we all know it's like, I only got 4 years in college. And what I do here really matters. And in some ways, like 4 years is not a very long time to set yourself up for the rest of your life. And I love NU campus, so beautiful. And on a clear day, you can see out into Chicago, you know, and just on the lake field, looking out there. And in some ways, it's as if campus and college it gives you a really powerful apologetic, which says what? It says, hey, if you just work hard enough, if you just put your head down and don't be distracted, if you just work, if you get the grades, internship, you're finally gonna feel fulfilled. That desire for significance, security, all the fears, you know, you're gonna be able to manage that. But maybe the question is, how does that work, and where does this pursuit lead? How does this actually play out when we go for these things? Not that these things in and of themselves are bad, but where does that lead? So I remember thinking in high school, of course, this is probably most of us, but if I could just get into a good college, and so that led to MUN and robotics and like Boy Scouts, tennis, all that. Really stressful. But man, I'm just gonna build this tower and I'll finally be secure. And then you go to college and there's like other tower. This analogy is getting weird. But like you realize, oh my God, you gotta like start over. And so we do the race of a lifetime skit. It's kind of similar to that, but it's like, man, you gotta start over, and you get to college and you go to Berkeley, and it's like, why is everyone so smart? And people have published papers. As a friend, I'm like, what's a paper? Like, I've written papers. Like, oh no, you don't understand. One of my freshman year classmates had finished all of the first and second year CS and math classes before even stepping onto campus. So I'm still not sure how he did that, but like you meet them and it's like, oh my gosh, I got to start over, and I got to build, and you get through college and grad school and working life. And at each stage, at the very least, it's so tiring because you have to kind of start over. There's yet another tower to build. But when does that end, right? When does that actually end? It ends maybe if you get to the top. If you finally, if somehow the stars align and you get all your ducks in a row, you build your tower so high that you become the one on the top floor. You're now looking down at everyone else. Maybe there's true rest there. Maybe that's when you'll finally feel at ease. Is that the case? There's a really profound story by Cicero. So he's a Roman orator who wrote about a man named Damocles. And so maybe you've heard the story. And so the story places Damocles as a servant in the court of King Dionysius of Syracuse in about 4th century BC. And so king living in the lap of luxury, and then the servant is seeing his life. And he talks to the king and says, hey, king, man, like, it must be awesome to be you. To have so much power and authority, you must be finally at peace. And so the king says, hey, you want to swap places? You want to try what it's like to, oh, yes. And so they swap places, so he could taste that life firsthand. And so he sat down in the king's throne, surrounded by every luxury, enjoying it all. But one day he looked up, and what's hanging above him? Do you guys all know the story? It's a sword, yeah. It's a sword hanging above his head. Hanging by a single horsehair right above his head. What's the moral of the story? I think the moral perhaps is when you finally have made it, you finally get to a place where you're even the king of the empire, there's no rest there. There's no rest. Rather, if anything, if you build your life on fear and ambition and striving, in some ways, the higher you build, the more insecurity you have, the more fear that you have. It's like the imposter syndrome, like, oh man, like everyone is suddenly smarter. There's always somebody who's nipping at your heels. Man, the more that you have, the more that you have to lose. I think it's not just in this story, but I think we see this in our society. And it's this cruel twist that nobody talks about, that even if you get everything that you want, you can still be miserable and utterly insecure and utterly fearful. And you start to build walls around you, perhaps. I thought, just a small comment, I thought, well, how these things that we labor to build, how big are they really? And I thought about, I'm not going to make too big of a deal about this, but in verse 5, because man's like, yeah, we can do brick. And we have this new tech, and we're going to build this, and pulleys, and boom, and they're building. And then what does verse 5 says? It says, the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of man had built. And I just thought, like, a sense of irony that man is striving away to build this, and where is God? He's up in heaven somewhere. He's like, oh, they're building something, Should we go take a look at what they're building? Okay, let's go down real quick. Like it's almost like just a sense of perspective and scale, and I think this is so true to life that we build and build, and we think that we're so impressive, but in just the grand scheme of the world and God, like all that we build is really so small and really insignificant. I just finished reading a book about how American business won World War II. And it's these like engineers, these titans of industry. And one of them is Henry Kaiser. Who's heard of Henry Kaiser? Only a few of us. Man, if you were in the 40s, he's like the Tony Stark. And he built the Liberty ships, and so he essentially won the war. Hot take, but man, and in some ways, if you know Kaiser, you might have heard of Kaiser, the medical group. That's maybe what he's kind of known for, but he's not a doctor. He was actually, but nobody knows about him. And it's so shocking because, again, back then, he was like the sensation of the town. I think I've shared this in the past, but one of my theology professors says, hey, who knows the first name of your great-grandfather? Does anybody actually know? I've asked this before. Does anybody know their first name? And his whole point is that we're all going to die and be forgotten. So I guess that was his point. All that we build, all that we labor to build, right? That Huang Center of Engineering, a beautiful picture, a beautiful building, but in a few short generations, I'm going to be gone, right? A tiny little virus passing around the world, and we're so vulnerable, right? In 1 second, one phone call from a doctor, everything can change. And in some ways, all that we strive to build, all of our life, in some ways, is just hanging by a thin strand of hair that could snap at any time. And so all that we build and strive for, how significant are those things really? But in addition to that, I thought about, it's not just that it's insignificant, but all this life of striving and building, it's not a very joyful and carefree life. That if that's what we're living for, then it's filled with a whole lot of stress and envy. So I thought about towers, so just kind of leaning into this analogy for a while. So this is the Bay Area, Transamerica building, and then the Salesforce Tower. Just the nature of towers is that what? It starts off as a wide base, and it gets narrow and narrow at the top. And I just thought, isn't that just true to life? That's kind of how life works. As you get higher and higher, there's just less spots, less places, because there can only be so many, right? So many people admitted to a school, et cetera. And I thought, yeah, that's just life, right? Science collaborators. You're working on a paper, there's a lot of co-authors, but we all know that it's about whoever has that first name, right? You have a startup, a bunch of co-founders, but and they're friendly, but as soon as the product goes to market, it's all about like who gets credit for that idea. In some ways, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And so life becomes stressful. It's all about how do I match up vis-a-vis other people? Either you feel superior or inferior, and it's just kind of, you keep having to jostle with one another. And I thought, interesting, now what is the result of this kind of a life? And going back to our text in verse 7, it says, God says, come, let us go down and there confuse their language so that they may not understand one another's speech. Let us go down and confuse their language. So I always thought that God was a little bit like vindictive or kind of threatened, like, oh no, they're building us, so we're gonna like squash that idea. But I don't think that's what's happening here. I think maybe one way to interpret this, verse 7, is maybe God is allowing them to see the natural consequence of their actions. The natural consequence of them really just going, like, just driven by ambition, fear. We're gonna build this. What is a natural consequence of that? I think one natural consequence is that you're going to get to a point where you're not going to be able to understand other people. And not that the language literally is confused, because we speak the same language, but maybe the point is that as people aim for self-glory and success, you're going to just start to miss each other. If everyone is about just their own personal gain, it's really hard to forge a sense of unity or community. And why is that the case? Why is making a name for myself ultimately isolating? I think one is that because that's not something that people are going to want to get behind. Kevin, sign me up because I want to make Kevin great. I want to be a project of Team Kevin. No one wants that. Everyone's living in their own life. Everyone is then locked into their own selfish agenda to make a name for themselves. And I think this is not surprising to any of us. And if you've ever not to denigrate networking, but networking is so tiring. Networking is helpful to get a foot into the industry, but in some ways it's like, I know why you're talking to me, right? Like, you're not really interested in me per se. Oh, maybe they are, but often it's just because you want to just network. And in fact, that's why I'm here too, because I just want to, and that's just college. It's so hard to form genuine relationships because everyone seems to be on their own path. And so what are we to make of this? It's interesting also too in verse 8. So just one quick comment. I think another consequence too. It says, so the Lord dispersed them from there over the face of all the earth. So they left off building the city. So not only do they not understand each other, but now they're all dispersed. So there's really no sense of community. And I think that's just really profound. A picture of our world, right? That it's every man for himself. It's dog eat dog. It's you figure out what you're going to do. At the very least, maybe you can have your own nuclear family around you, but otherwise you're on your own. Right? There's no community, no unity, no oneness. So what is, this is kind of a downer message. Like, what is the hope then for our world? If Genesis 11 describes our world, that we're all going to go for just ambition, fear. Those are drivers. We're gonna go for those things. Why? Because we're all disconnected from God. But as you do so, it's isolating, it's miserable, it's stressful, and yet that's our world that we live in. If this is indeed our world, then what is the hope for genuine community? Okay, how is that even possible? And I want you guys to talk about that. So how about just we'll do a little break here. How about let's just summarize what we heard, but talk about like if this indeed is what our world is like, then what hope is there for genuine relating, genuine community? Okay, try to answer that question. So here it is behind me. Give us a couple of minutes to talk about that. Okay, and then we'll wrap up our message. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up. I thought, well, gosh, you can experience genuine community when God is at the center. And so maybe this is one of these like Sunday school, what is the right answer? You see the God or Jesus. Yeah, when God is at the center. And maybe that's the overall point, that if you replace God, right, with any other thing, with any Tower of Babel, it just doesn't work. But once God is at the center, then God can really be that glue. I thought about this quote from G.K. Chesterton. So he's an old theologian in kind of old-time, colorful language. Talks about this. So he says this. He says, "So you are the God of your world. What a small world it must be. What a little heaven you must inhabit with angels no bigger than butterflies. How sad it must be to God and an inadequate God. Is there really no life fuller and no love more marvelous than yours? How much happier you would be, how much more of you there would be if the hammer of a higher God could smash your small cosmos, scattering the stars like spangles and leave you in the open, free like other men to look up as well as down." Gosh. Man, we don't write like this anymore, you know? Man, I want God to smash my own small world. I want God to smash your small world. Man, God has so much more in store for us. God is looking at us from heaven. Why are you laboring so hard to just lay bricks for your own small kingdom? Man, God is like, I have so much more in store for you. I have so much life. All those videos that we watch, man, I have so much life and relationship and purpose and meaning. Why are you in fear, constantly worrying about your life and tomorrow? And when I have I have community, I have church ready for you. I think God must be really just saddened at the state of mankind, that they had to look to this tower to be their deliverance and salvation. Oh, God says, I am your salvation, or I am your love. It can't just be about our own small life. Our life needs to be about something bigger. But what does that look like for God to be in the center? What does that look like today? So Going back to our Genesis 11, God sees that whole situation. And that's Genesis 11. And then Genesis 12 is the introduction of which character in the Bible? Abraham. Genesis 12 is a calling of Abraham. If there's a pivotal chapter in the Bible, there's a good argument, Genesis 12. God covenants with Abraham to forge a community centered around God. And it's through the person of Abraham. And so he starts that again in Genesis 12. And eventually that story's going to wind us up all the way to the New Testament. And eventually it'll become the church. It'll become the church. What does this look like for God to be in the center of human relationships? What's going to be a source of significance and security? Definitely God, definitely the gospel. But how does that physically work out in our society? It's the church. And in the book of Acts, there's this crazy story about the origin story of the church. We make a big deal out of the last 6 verses, but in the beginning of Acts 2, it reads this. And so let's go ahead and read this together. All together, okay? So, ready, set, go. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. Now there were dwelling in Jerusalem Jews, devout men from every nation under heaven. And they were amazed and astonished, saying, are not all these who are speaking Galileans? How is it that we hear, each of us in his own native language? Parthians and Medes and Elamites and residents of Mesopotamia, Judea and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, Egypt and the parts of Libya belonging to Cyrene, and visitors from Rome, both Jews and proselytes, Cretans and Arabians, we hear them telling in our own language the mighty works of God. Tongues. In our own tongues, the mighty works of God. Man, what an amazing picture that was. If only we were there to witness this. The birth of the church, all the linguistic barriers coming down, everyone understanding what is being said. Like, how does that work? In some ways, this is the reversal of the curse of Babel. It's God, in some ways, undoing the dispersion, the scattering. Now, I want to bring down the barriers. I want to bring down the language. We're all going to be doing what? We're all going to be, verse 11, we're all going to be proclaiming in our own tongues the mighty works of God. We're each given like a new song to sing, as imagery from Psalms. That instead of singing my own song of my own ambition, that we're going to be singing this new song about the mighty works of God, that there's a God out there that loves me, that loves you. This is then the basis for genuine community. And that when we worship God, when we proclaim God, suddenly we find ourselves speaking the same language. There's something that we can all get behind. And it's not just Kevin or whatever it is, but it's going to be about lifting up the name of Jesus, right? The name above all other names. And I just love it. I think more and more at a lot of the campuses that we're at, we tend to be one of the more multi-ethnic groups, and I think that's just awesome. Different backgrounds, languages, but just having the commonality of having the same gospel to speak. And experiencing, more than tribal allegiances, really experiencing church relationships to be pretty close. Right, just like family, Jesus saying, who are my mother and brothers, whoever does the will of God. Right, experiencing that church family. And I just thought, and this is how the Silicon Valley video ended, but I just thought, what a powerful apologetic this could be to our world. In our world that is, I don't know, that doesn't know God at the very least. A world that's maybe a little bit tired, just exhausted from trying to find security in all the wrong places. With no shortage of different things to be fearful about, in a society where people are hungering for genuine relationships. God says, hey, we have something awesome to offer, and more than convincing apologetics arguments, it's just the fact that we just experience relationship with God at the center. We have this genuine community, and I wouldn't trade any of this for gold. I really wouldn't. You can dangle like an awesome, literally a bar of gold, if you were to leave. I really wouldn't. Just to enjoy relationships, right? Where like the very person who pies you on their birthday, right, is the same person that you cry, the shoulder that you cry on when you fail. It's one of these like you could be lost, stranded, where your Uber breaks down, and there's no shortage of people that would fork out money to Uber to pick you up. People who spur you on to be a better version of yourself, people that are not threatened by your success, right? That we're going to work together to lift up God's name. And thought about verses like in John where it's as we love each other, then people will know, hey, there's something weird about that group. And they must be disciples of God. I don't know why I said that, but they must be disciples. Like there's something really powerful about that kind of a community. Man, at the very least, let's be just thankful that we get to experience this. That we get to experience genuine relating. That we get to experience, in some ways, a reversal of Babel in our own lives. And let's keep building into this body, right? To build into relationships. Don't be too busy for people. And don't be too busy for relationships. And then, just the picture of declaring the mighty works of God. In some ways, that's ministry, right? Sharing your testimony, sharing the gospel. Keep at that. There's something really unifying about living a life on mission. Okay, so we're going to have just one last discussion to just process a little bit what we heard. So I'll throw up some questions here. Feel free to use those, or if you want to just share what's something that was personally challenging, share about that, and then we're going to have the band come up as we wrap up with the song. Okay, so let's go ahead and share from these questions, and then we'll sing as we close.
Let's rise for worship.
Walking around this wall, I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. Waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won, for you have never failed me yet. Your promise still stands, and great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. I know the night won't last. Your word will come to pass. My heart will sing your praise again. Jesus, you're still enough. Keep me within your love. My heart will sing your praise again. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. So I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. And this is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I'll see you do it again. Your promise still stands, and great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. You've never failed me yet. I never will forget. You never failed me yet. I never will forget.
Heavenly Father, thank you for the gift of the church. And individually, we could all be off building our own little projects, our own little towers, just about ourselves. But instead, we get to be here, and we get to declare that there is something mightier than our own accomplishments. Father, please rescue us from the rat race of fear and ambition, which is just so pervasive on the college campus. And let us not take the church for granted, but may we continue to gather together and encourage one another until the day draws near. And we lift up this prayer to you in your precious and your holy name. Amen. All right, you can take a seat. Just thankful for the message that curse of Babel has been reversed, and that we do have a context and a place where we can relate to one another, not about ourselves, but about how can we all together honor God and mutually advance His kingdom. And so, yeah, so a few announcements kind of in light of that. First up, something that we can all get involved in called Operation, let me get this right. Okay, Operation Christmas Child. So if you want to be a part of that, well, actually, Charlotte is going to come up and explain more, and then, yeah, Charlotte. Oh, there you are.
Thanks, Ben. Okay, hi everyone. So Christmas is just around the corner, and I'm really thrilled to invite all of you to help children in need with gifts and the gospel this season. So Samaritan's Purse, which is a Christian nonprofit, runs an annual project called Operation Christmas Child, where we can share God's love with children around the world in a very tangible way. So this is how it works. We're going to take a shoebox, fill it with gifts, put a label on it, and Samaritan's Purse partners with local churches to distribute the boxes and also share the gospel of Jesus Christ. So if you're interested, we'll be in the back. Please pick up a shoebox at our table in the back after service and simply take it home and pack it with fun items like a stuffed animal or a soccer ball with a pump, along with school supplies, personal care items just to fill up fill up the shoebox, and a personal note from you. And then bring your filled shoebox back here by November 24th, which is 2 Sundays from now. You're also welcome to pair up with a friend to pack a shoebox together. So the holiday season is a wonderful time for us to use the blessings God has given to us to bless others. And this isn't just about the gifts inside the box, but it's about sharing God's love and opening doors for ministry that can transform lives and communities. So for many children, your shoebox may be the first time they hear about Jesus. I hope you all join us in being a blessing to children around the world this Christmas. And I'll be at the table in the back after service. You can come by to pick up a shoebox, pick up a label, and ask any questions you may have. So, thanks.
Great, thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, I think it's really neat, like a really small way that we can just do something for others when, going to Northwestern, it's a really good school. We've already been blessed with a lot. So this is one way we can give back a little. So next up, we've been talking about Acts 2 Network Winter Conference for the last few Sundays, and there's actually a little shout out we got from Show Baraka. So we're gonna play that, just I don't know, flex or something.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Show Baraka, and for the last 17 years, I've had the privilege of traveling the world as an artist, as an author, as an activist, and as a speaker. And I am excited that this January, I will be at the Acts 2 Network Winter Conference. I would love for you guys to join us, because oftentimes as college students and as young adults and professionals, our jobs in college, it teaches us how to make a living and it provides a living, but does it really teach us how to make a life? And I want to be able to help you develop an idea on how to make a life. So join me at the Acts 2 Network Winter Conference. You can sign up at acts2college.org/conference. See you there.
Sweet. All right. So if you've already signed up, just keep your eyes peeled. You should be getting an email soonish with some more info on what's to come. And all right, so last announcement is for next Sunday, we're going to be doing our Thanksgiving celebration service down at Voyage Chicago, downtown. So yeah, so those videos we got to see at the beginning, it'll be more like that, just getting to look back at everything that's happened in the last year, in the last 3 years in our church network, and just be able to give glory to God for that, along with stuffing ourselves with some good Thanksgiving food. So if you want to come, because it's in downtown Chicago, we're going to be taking a bus, a private bus we're chartering, not just like public bus. Yeah, so we're taking that 10:30 a.m. at the parking lot across from Tech. So be there if you want to come, and yeah, all the details are up there. So, all right, that's all we got for service. If you'd like to join us for lunch, the food should be out in the hallway. You can go out there, make a line, grab the food, and come back in here to eat. And that's it. All right, thank you, everyone.